Why do all the children in the world go to Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam after death? How does the angel of death seize the souls of children, and how are children treated after death? Moreover, what happens to a child born in the house of a disbeliever and dies? Will children be questioned in their graves after death? Lastly, we will know if an innocent child, under the influence of his parents, commits disbelief at an immature age, what will be accounted for on the Day of Judgment? If the child dies in that immature state, will there be an accounting in his grave? Various scholars have different opinions on this, but the most established opinion according to the Quran and Sunnah is that all children are sinless until they reach puberty. For this reason, when children pass away, the angel of death seizes the soul of the underage child with great gentleness. It is even said that if a child suffers in any distressing situation, Allah the Almighty quickly instructs the angel of death to seize the child's soul with utmost tenderness and alleviate his suffering. Subhanallah. Indeed, no account of their deeds is taken. It is clear from the hadith of the Prophet that after the soul is seized, the child goes directly to paradise. There, the child remains under the care of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and his wife, Sarah alayhi salam, until the Day of Judgment. After the Day of Judgment, if the child's parents enter paradise, the child will be handed over to them. If the parents go to hell, the sinless child will remain under the care of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sarah alayhi salam in paradise for eternity. Another point to mention is that if a Muslim parent's child dies at a very young age, that child will serve as a means of salvation for the parents from their mountainous sins on the Day of Judgment. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, on the Day of Judgment, the sinless children will intercede with Allah the Almighty for their parents. If those parents are believers in the one and only Creator, then Allah the Almighty will accept their intercession and grant them entry into paradise. Some also say that there are some tests in the grave that everyone must face. After a body is buried, the grave first contracts, pressing the body intensely so that the ribs interlock. From various hadiths, it is known that everyone who is buried will face this. No one is safe from it. Narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, once when a child's funeral procession passed by her, she cried. When asked, she said, "The deceased is still a child. I feel very sad for him. Even though he has gone to paradise, the grave will contract and press him." Now, the question arises, will a sinless child be questioned in the grave? Because we know that even a righteous adult is questioned in the grave. What about the children? Regarding this, Imam Ibn Qayyim rahmatullahi alayhi says that children are questioned in the grave. The evidence for this is that funeral prayers are offered for children, and this prayer is made for them. Allah protect them from the punishment and questioning of the grave. Therefore, most scholars agree that children will also be questioned in the grave. Allah will grant the deceased children full intelligence in the grave, and then these children will be able to answer the angels' questions competently. That is, questions will be asked, and Allah will provide them the ability to answer. Now, let's talk about those children who are born and die before reaching adulthood in the homes of disbelievers or polytheists. What will be their fate? Regarding this, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly said, "Know that when Allah the Almighty created these children, and when they were born, Allah well knew what these children would become when they grew up. Allah also knew which children would die before growing up." Similarly, it is narrated in hadith that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam once saw in a dream that he was in a garden, and a tall man was walking in the garden surrounded by many children. The man was so tall that when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam looked up, it seemed like he was talking to the sky. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked Angel Jibril about the man and the children around him, Angel Jibril said, "O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the person you see is Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. The children playing around him are those children who were naturally born on the fitra, innate disposition, of Islam and died before reaching adulthood. That is, if these children die before reaching adulthood, then they indeed die on the fitra of Islam, because no child is born except on the fitra of Islam. When a child comes to this world, the idea of the one and only Allah is naturally embedded in his heart. However, after coming to this world, under the influence of his parents and the people around him, he might become a polytheist, atheist, or irreligious. But at the time of birth, every child is born on the concept of the one and only Allah. Therefore, if a child dies before reaching puberty, then he dies on the concept of monotheism. This is clear from the hadith of the Prophet. Thus, if a child of a disbeliever or an atheist dies before reaching adulthood, he will definitely go to paradise and be directly placed under the care of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, let's understand from what age a child begins to be considered sinful. That is, from what age, if a child commits a sin, it will be regarded as a sin and recorded as wrongdoing. According to the hadith, when a child reaches maturity, becomes capable of understanding, and starts distinguishing between right and wrong, if they commit disbelief at that age, their disbelief will be considered as such, and they will be regarded as a disbeliever. Now the question is, if the children of disbelievers or polytheists die while they are still prepubescent, we know that they will go to paradise. The question is, where in paradise will they be placed? Dear viewers, as I mentioned earlier, these children will be under the protection of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam in paradise for eternity, if their parents do not reach paradise due to their own sins.